Okay, so back. All right. So let's get back into it, guys. We're getting through this. I know it's long and tedious, whatever, but if you go through this whole process and you're successful in this, because I've got to say, and this has happened to me. I've seen this happen a number of times. I was working on a job in New York, and I had an assistant who actually got a call to bid on Nautica, and he and I sat down and worked on his bid, and we essentially went through the same thing as all of this stuff right here, and he ended up coming up with, he was shooting, it was, I don't remember the real particulars about it, but I want to say it was a 1 or 2 day shoot, and it was supposed to be on a boat somewhere in Long Island, and that was kind of what he was going for. So, and his bid came in, it was like $60,000, $80,000, something like that, and I didn't see, and so anyway, we were working together, and he put this bid in, and I didn't hear from him, but I saw him, like 4 or 5 months later, we were on another job together, and I said, so whatever happened with the Nautica thing? And he goes, oh, I didn't stand a chance. And I was like, what? And he goes, they awarded the bid to a photographer. It was like $480,000, and he had bid 80. He said, they just laughed. He goes, they didn't even consider me. They just thought I was completely rank amateur, wouldn't even consider it. So what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that not the figures that we're talking about, this is serious. We said the client, and this is Lord & Taylor. This is not the, you know, the brand new designer at Columbia College who just graduated who wants to do a photo shoot of their clothes. That's not what's involved here. That's not who this client is. It's not what they're going to expect. By the very same token, this is not Ralph Lauren either, right? If this was Ralph Lauren, that creative fee would have doubled at least, if not tripled.
How do you want to change your creative fee?
The whole thing that we spent the first couple of days in this class talking about is that all the things that you need to consider in that. So you need to consider what you're bringing to the party. What are you bringing to it? Is it vision? Is it youth? Is it experience? All of those kind of things. Those are the sort of intangibles. What is the market actually, what can the market handle? What is the market, what does the market really bear? Well, Ralph Lauren is shooting with the very top people in New York. There's no question about that. So what are the top rates for creative fees per day in New York City? Any idea? Well, we talked about what Stephen Meisel was in this class. And actually, that was an interesting night. And I've thought about that night ever since. Remember we were talking about Stephen Meisel, and I said he was $75,000 a day. And what did he get paid to shoot product ads for Vogue, only Vogue, right? And we came up with his, essentially, for his day, it was going to be $1.2 million. And all of you guys looked at me like that is such bullshit. I do not believe that for a second. And it was somewhat demoralizing to me, because the part that I've been trying to stress to you all along is that this doesn't have anything to do with time. This has got to do with what they're actually doing with these images. And so it's Prada in Vogue, Stephen Meisel, and it's what we figured out was 40 pages or 42, I don't know, however we figured out the ultimate, what that ultimately was. And it was like, well, if Vogue is going to be paying, you know, $50 million to buy the page space, is it really unreasonable to think that they're going to pay a photographer $1.2 million to shoot the pictures? Whether it's taking him a day or 6 days or 30 days or whatever it is, the time doesn't have anything to do with it. So again, it goes back to this whole notion that you can't think of it, oh, Stephen's making $1.2 million in a day. That's not what this is about. It's about they're paying him $1.2 million to use these pictures that he has made. That's what's at stake here. That's what's going on here. So the going rate for creative in New York for that tier of photographer is probably $50,000 to $75,000 a day. If you're hiring Peter Lindbergh or Albert Watson or Stephen Meisel, or that's what you're going to pay. If you're working with somebody like me, you're closer into the $5,000 to $10,000 a day in creative fee. That's, again, I'm not quoting day rates, but that's where I'm sort of going to be. And then there's everybody that's sort of in the middle of that, because I'm at the sort of the high end of what the B tier, the B team, as it were. I would sort of be at the high end of that. Then there's the group that sort of splits the difference of those, and there's a whole group of photographers that are in there. It's not the Craig McDeans and the Stephen Meisels. It's not that group right there. It's people you've probably never heard of, or you may have heard of, that are sort of maybe they've been doing a little bit of editorial, they're a little bit younger, they're not quite as established name, whatever. They're going to be in that 25 to 30 range, and that's pretty much it. And so What will the market bear? What can you actually expect? What are you bringing to it? Does that really make sense? And so that's how you figure this stuff out. I can tell you right now that Lord & Taylor is not going to pay one of you guys more than $3,500 a day to actually be doing the shooting part. They may pay more for the usage, but they won't pay more than that. But by the very same token, Bonton here, 3 a day is going to be the top for them. They're not going to pay 35, and I just know that. So I can set my rate accordingly. And if they came back to me and they said, Verser, we can't pay that anymore. The most we're going to actually pay for anything is $2,500 a day. Would I take it or not? Well, then I get to choose. Yes.
If you were shooting for a fashion student that just graduated or whatever, how low do you go so that they can't afford it? Because they're not going to be able to afford much of anything.
How low do you go as far as you as the fashion student just graduating?
Or like if you're going to shoot for them, yeah.
We went through that whole exercise about figuring out what your cost of doing business is. That is your bottom line rate.
I think it kind of depends on if you can use the shoot for your portfolio as long as you have some skills if you're building your portfolio.
You can, but again, you can't eat your portfolio.
You need a portfolio to show people that need money to eat.
That's absolutely true, all the way around. No argument about that at all. But just remember, you can't eat a credit line.
But then you're also known as like the cheap photographer.
That's very, very true. Exactly. So, and I will say that you bring up such a great point. Thank you for doing that. No, it's so true. The problem is that it is, if you look at two different scenarios, if you decide that you're actually going to lowball to get a job on the hopes of then raising your rate, that is so much harder to do than not getting the job in the beginning at a higher rate, eventually having them come around and your rate be higher from the get-go. Trying to get your rate, trying to raise your rates is more difficult than getting the job.
So is it better than respectively if you're trying to build or change your portfolio or something like that and you want to just work? Is it better than to do more tests and go with that?
I would absolutely agree with that 1,000%.
Then rather
Yes,
than do that.
yeah. Or editorial work. I mean, the whole thing about editorial work is you don't get paid for it. You're not going to do any of these kind of prices like this for editorial, even for Vogue. I don't care who it is. They don't pay this kind of money. They maybe will pay any legal this kind of, more than this. But editorial doesn't pay anything at all. Nothing.
They don't pay the photographer, but at least all paid for the
They'll pick up, and usually they'll pick up all the expenses. So they'll pay for everything. They'll pay for your hotel and the location, and they'll pay for all of that. They'll rent the horse and the barn, and you can have a crew of 10, and they'll pay for all of them. But they're not going to give, they do not give, I can promise you, American Vogue does not pay Stephen Meisel $75,000 a day to shoot editorial. They're not in a zillion years.
And the majority of editorials, how much do you think is actually like done by, say, Vogue starting up and like people shoot something like this and then maybe send it off to a photographer first? Because I did a lot of like shoots where it was just like, oh, well, we have this idea, we're going to make this in a day.
They both happen all the time. All the time. But for the most part, have you ever seen the September issue, the film about putting together the September issue of Vogue? That's all assigned photography. They're hiring Mario Testino to go shoot. I forget who he shot for that, but whoever. That's all assignment photography. And, Grace Coddington is putting together stories. They're doing, this season, what's happening, what is the story this season, what's going to be plaid. Okay, we're going to hire Steven to shoot plaid. And they do this, so there's a lot of that. But there are always stories that people put together on spec and submit.
Is that more just like online stuff?
That would be the lion's share of what happens online, because those people they're not paying for anything. They're not even paying for your expenses. But again, exposure, tear sheets, that kind of stuff, So if you're going to do testing anyway, why not structure something in a way that you could actually market it, again, to somebody else. But again, if you're going to do that, we talked about releases last week. You're going to have to get, you're going to have to deal with that issue, right? Because without a release, nobody's going to touch stuff. Did everybody sign the sign-in sheet today? Okay. All right, so back to this. All right, so there is no film and processing in here, so we can blast down through all of this. You don't need to worry about this. This did come up in our conversation last week, and it was this thing about processing sales tax. This is actually the only thing that you would charge sales tax on if you actually had it. So here's the thing, and this is what goes on. There's a constant debate about this in the state of Illinois. as photographers, are you providing a service or are you providing a product?
A service. As a wedding photographer, at least, I definitely think it's a service. Maybe as a wedding photographer.
Okay, but as a wedding photographer, the people who hire you ultimately are looking for what? Are they looking for you to shoot the wedding, or are they looking for pictures? So are the pictures a service or a product?
Those are a product.
So you see where this debate comes into this. Is what you do as a photographer a service or a product? If it is a product, it is subject to sales tax, and that means the whole thing. If it is a service, it isn't. So if you are claiming, so photographers have lobbied for years in the state of Illinois to keep this as a service so that it is not taxed. But we're also talking about a state that's over $1 billion in debt, or $100 billion. You know how quickly, easy they throw this $1 billion in debt. On our luckiest day, we would only be $1 billion in debt. $100 billion in debt, or 200, I don't know, 100 here, 100 there, sooner or later it adds up to real money. So quite easily what they're doing, they're going after everybody in this regard. There is contemplation that all services are going to be treated as products. So if you go to a lawyer, that is no longer service, that'll be a product. Whatever he ends up doing for you will be a product, subject to sales tax. If you use a financial broker, a stockbroker, and you buy and sell stock, ultimately what you're getting is actual physical thing, stock. So it would be, again, a product, and therefore you'd be able to charge sales tax. However, that is not the case as it exists right now, but there is a specific clause in the Illinois State Tax Code that says the photo processing, and we were talking about processing film and making contact sheets, anything that would be printed at a photo lab but not inkjet, chemical processing. You would not consider inkjet to be processing, although somebody could argue against that. At any rate, you have to charge sales tax. That is now a product. You have to charge a client sales tax for that. They pay you that sales tax, and then you have to pay to the state of Illinois. The odd thing about it is it gets even weirder. The tax you charge is 50% of the Illinois tax rate. So the Illinois tax rate, sales tax rate in Illinois, or in the city of Chicago area in Illinois, is 10.25%. So half of that would be 5.25%. That's what you would actually charge a client only for the processing part. So this part right here where it says film and processing, you would split this out and you would only do the film as one line, the processing is the separate line, and then on this little bit of processing, you would charge your 5.25%. That's what you would actually charge for this. In return, you get to pay everything that you actually buy in the state of Illinois that's related to photography, you pay no tax on, no matter what it is. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you would not charge sales tax on the entire estimate that we're going to come up with is going to be an invoice at some point. You would not charge tax on that whole thing because that would be an exorbitant amount of money, and you would also be declaring your business as a product, not as a service. Does this make sense where we're going with here? However, you're shooting digital, so this doesn't come into this argument at all. However, you can still apply for a sales tax certificate and not pay sales tax on anything in the state of Illinois. That alone is worth the price of admission. Okay, down here to talent. This is where things start to get tricky as far as this part goes. So, for the math phobic, I apologize, but there's no other way that we can actually do this. So we need to go back and we need to actually look at the very first thing that we did here, our timesheet for models, for talent. And we need to figure out what this part actually ended up being. So for our, remember right here, we started out, these were for the days in the studio. So the days in the studio, I'm actually gonna write this down. I always keep like a piece of paper next to me, and I'll do every single day what's really going on. So the model rates for Monday are what? There are no models on Monday. I've lost you all. Focus, people, you got to regain this because you're thinking this is some stupid little exercise we're doing in a business class and it doesn't really matter, and I'm giving you the fucking keys to the kingdom right now. We're not doing anything on Monday. That is our travel day. On Tuesday is our studio day. How many model hours do I have on that studio day? I've got 16 and a half. Are those all billed at normal rate? No. What's different about what part of them? I have a half hour that's actually either time and a half or double rate. If it's double rate, how many hours would I then have for that day? I would have 16 regular hours, right? So this is Tuesday, 16 regular hours. If the extra half an hour was double rate, that would be then 1 more hour. If it's time and a half, then what would I have? 3/4 of an hour. Let's just do it double time. Well, actually, that's not true though. It's going to be time and a half. So it's going to be 3/4 of an hour. Does that make sense? If it's double time, this half hour, this 30 minutes right here. If it's double time, it would be 1 hour. It'd be 60 minutes. But it's time and a half. So that half an hour is actually going to be 45 minutes, which is 3/4 of an hour, right? So the amount of model times that I've got for my first day, Tuesday, is going to be 16.75. Isn't that 16 3/4 hours? Are we good on that? Who did I lose? It's going to be the very same thing on Wednesday. It's 16.75. On our beach day, remember we're traveling to the beach. Our beach day is actually now completely different. How much time is my beach day? Well, for my first model right here, it's 10 and a half hours. My second model right here, it's actually 10 hours. So we need to figure out the overtime on this. So it is 16 hours at normal rate, right? 8 hours a day for each girl.
I have a question.
Shoot.
So if we're traveling the hour to and from,
Right.
won't both the models be there at the same time?
No, usually the models will meet you at the hotel and climb in the RV and travel out there with you.
Yeah, but
Is that why they get paid the extra?
Yeah.
So if they came in their own car or whatever, then they wouldn't?
This would all depend on how good your producer is, whether they've negotiated no travel, because that happens all the time. They'll say, okay, you need to meet us at the beach, there's no time for travel. But then all of a sudden your tier of models has dropped down because they don't want to work for that. They don't want to do that much. So let's just be fair about this and call it for what it is, because that's what it's going to be. All right? Okay, so again, we've got 16 regular hours, but then that leaves us 4.5 hours of overtime, right? I've got an extra 2.5 on this girl, and I got an extra 2 on this girl. Isn't that 4.5 hours of extra overtime?
But the girls don't even get there at the same time, so wouldn't there be more overtime then?
I looked at this right here. I just went through my chart right here, and they're not getting there at the same time. One's leaving before the other one. I'm adding an hour of travel. This girl still is shooting from 8 to 5, but she had to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning to get there, and I'm giving her an hour of travel to get back home, so she gets home at 6.
Oh, okay, so they're not traveling with us.
Oh, good point. They are traveling with us.
that's what I meant.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that at all. Okay, see, that's what happens when you only just add this 2-hour part right here. It doesn't actually work out completely correct, right? But actually, it still does work out correct. I'm still doing an hour before and an hour after.
Yeah, but the one girl doesn't start at the same time.
You're right. So we've got to add. So this girl is leaving at the same time. So she's leaving at 8 o'clock as well, right? That's the point that you guys are trying to make. So
And
this
then the
girl
other has to stay home.
and the other girl has to stay. So they're both at 10.5 now. Is that true?
Well, if you're not, they have to stay with us. They're both at 11 and a half then.
No.
Because they have to stay with us till we're.
All right, well, then let's count it out. They're starting on this day, because again, this is why I'm trying to save time here and not do a whole nother one of these guys. But clearly, we should have done another one of these guys. So instead of putting it right here, I'm going to get rid of this. Sure.
Just about this thing, I typed in like.
I'm just going to treat it as model 3 and 4 here for just one day to see how it works. Is that okay with you guys? So that we can really do this correctly, right? So the truth of the matter is it's going to start up here at 7 o'clock, even though I don't have a 7 o'clock time in here. So this girl is actually going to be up here at 7 o'clock, and we're going to continue. The day is going to go exactly the way the day did, except that we're supposed to end at 5 o'clock and we'll get home at 6. So this girl's actually starting at 7 and going till 6. And this girl's doing the exact same thing because she's driving out there with us. Is that correct?
Well,
Well, in this case, we
But then we don't have time to break down after shot 12.
Interesting. Do we or don't we?
Well, for the beach day, yeah, we would need to break down. So.
Of course you would. If you've got a scrim flying and reflectors out and you've set up a beauty dish and a generator and all that kind of stuff, of course we would, right? However, I'm going to be an optimist about this and say that the scrim, we don't need it at the end of the day because the sun's going to be way down in the sky. We'll actually be able to do direct light at that time. I've got the second, everybody's broken down everything. All we got to do is jump in the RV and head out. So we're not going to need breakdown time. But you're absolutely right to think about that, right? We put in setup time. Right? So again, I'll leave it at this right here. So again, how much time is this? And it's 11 hours for each girl, right? Are we good on this? But you're absolutely right. What a huge mistake. You know, I had this an hour and a half under when I did the original. I'll just add 2 hours for each girl. And instead of having 11 hours for 10 and a half for one and 10 for the other, that would have caused me to underestimate this by an hour and a half of overtime. Does this make sense where we're going with here? Are we good on this? Yes.
My thingy messed up, so I'm going to fix it. It's like doing all the pound things, and then the date is just going to 1/9/1904. But,
Nancy.
Huh?
Nancy, not do it.
I do. Well,
Yeah,
yes,
it keeps happening online.
delete it. I typed in what I was trying to do at first, 8.5. And enter, and it goes back to the damn date again. And it's driving me nothing. And I tried cutting it, it does not work to cut it. I tried to do format, it didn't work either. And I just don't know what to do. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That didn't work.
See if it works.
At any rate, you get where this is going. So, how much regular time do I have for the beach day for the models? 16 hours. That's regular time. How much overtime do I have?
22?
6. No. This girl has 8 hours of regular time. This is 8 hours of regular time. She gets 3 hours of overtime, and she gets 3 hours of overtime.
So I meant 22 hours altogether.
No, it's not 22 hours altogether.
Well, yeah.
That's a huge mistake. It is how many hours at regular rate? 16. How many overtime hours do we have in this scenario? 6. 6 at time and a half is how many regular hours? 9. 12 would be double time.
Oh.
I'm trying to make the math easy for you guys because I'm trying to keep the same rate. We could do 2 separate lines here and put in, but this is going to involve incredibly difficult math that you guys don't want to do. So I'm trying to make it easy for you by converting overtime into regular time. If I have got 6 hours of overtime, 6 hours of overtime at time and a half, 1.5, what is 6 times 1.5? 9. So that is 9 regular hours. You add that to your 16 regular hours, and you come up with 25 hours at a regular rate for our day at the beach. Does that make sense? You good with me, guys? Okay, the same thing is actually going to happen in our location. Location house is an hour away, and that's going to happen for me on both of those days. So I end up with the same thing on both of those days. It's an hour out, an hour back, so we have 25 hours for each of those days as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But now you're at 75 hours.
That's no, but because you're not counting the days that we were in the studio. So this is how it works. Back into our regular sheet here. So the easiest way to do this, you could actually add this up. If you had a calculator, somebody have a calculator, just grab one, even though that's what this spreadsheet's all about. Just grab a regular calculator, the kind that you have on your phone, and add 16.75. Add another 16.75 to that. That's our 2 days in the studio. Then add 25, 25, and 25. 108.50. 108.5.
Well, I mean, you're just doubling 60.75. Oh my God.
So if you want to see how to do it inside the spreadsheet, I'm going to show you how to do that. You don't have to do it there, but if you want to see how to do it there, this is how you do it here. We'll see if Matthew's is correct. Inside the cell, you put in equal, and you have 16.75 plus 16.75 plus 25 plus 25 plus 25, and hit enter, and you come up with 108.5. Now, in terms of our time and this right here, we've actually got these models at $200 a day. That is a $1,600 a day rate. That would be 8 times 200. There's no model in this day and age that works for that kind of money. The truth of it is, bottom tiered model who's doing, they're working a lot, but they're in Florida. They're actually doing the season thing. They're probably not spending a lot of time in New York, whatever, would probably be $2,500 a day, which would be $300 an hour. Probably the level that Lord & Taylor is going to be wanting to work with is probably going to be closer to the $4,000 to $5,000 a day sort of rate. So let's just say $4,500 a day would actually be their rate. Not 8 into, well, let's do 4,200 because I'm trying to come up with just easy math. 8 times 6 is 4,200, right? So
545.
So what?
545.
So I've got to do the math. Sorry, guys. I can't do the math without doing the math. So let's say.
4,200 divided by 8 is 525.
Okay, fine. So let's make it $525 an hour. Again, that's times the 1.2 because you need an agency fee in there, right? And we come up with almost $70,000 in model fees.
Oh my God. Wait. I
No, you can't stop. When I shot Lord & Taylor in New York, they were using $10,000 a day girls. If you shoot lingerie, it's double time. That's $20,000. Now, again, they're not getting that the entire time because they're not shooting lingerie the whole time, and it's only on set time that they get double time. But they don't get double time to sit in a makeup chair or to eat lunch. But they get time the whole time that they're on set. So $10,000 girl probably is pulling down 13 or 14 on a lingerie day. I've got 2 girls. That's essentially over 5 days. That would be 10 model rates, as it were. But yeah, you look at this. This is cheap.
Really?
I have no idea what that is right there. It just commands me to go back and grab. You put in a value. It commands me again. And we keep going, keep going. Keep from the power. Yeah, all right, so we're gonna do this small.
That's cheap. That's what it's saying.
Okay. So we're continuing on down here, guys. So the talent, we don't have any minors in this. We are not doing fittings. What fittings are is when some companies do fittings. Lord & Taylor actually doesn't. Macy's does. What happens in fittings is that you actually bring somebody in who's the same size as the model who's going to wear the clothes. They typically work at a cheaper rate, usually half of what a regular girl would work at. They just get them for much cheaper, whatever. And they would fit the clothes to them before you'd actually go on the shooting so that you don't have time. You don't have to spend time actually putting all that stuff together. But in our case, we don't have any of those. We do not have any travel fees because they are actually local. In terms of catering here, so we need to figure out how big our crew is, because typically what's provided on a crew is on a day of shooting is that you provide breakfast and lunch. That's usually a given for the entire crew. So we counted out the number on our entire crew. We actually had 6 people out of town. We've got 4 people in town, so we've got a crew of 10. Does that make sense? So if you look at this right here, at my list right over here, I typically budget $15 for breakfast per person and $25 for lunch per person. That actually is, and I've got a 10-person minimum in here. A lot of caterers will actually set a minimum of this. So if you look at the value for this 400, you can see it's that $40 times 10. It's right here. So it's $40 a day times 10 people. If we had 15 people on the crew, you would actually change that to a 15. Does that make sense? Yes.
What about like the art director and stuff?
Again, I said we're not specifically. I said we're not budgeting for any of their cost. But clearly, if you were expected to do that, in this case, you would absolutely have to put that in. You've got the creative person, art director, sometimes they have an assistant, sometimes there's a client is involved in this as well, they'll be there as well. You have to put in all of those people, right? But in our case, I specifically said we didn't have to do that, so you can leave this at 10. However, we've got it for 5 days, right? So it is 5 times that 400, so it's $2,000 just in catering. There was a time in life where we could charge for cell phones. We can't do that anymore. Studio expendables, now we've actually already talked about that. If we go back to our equipment rental sheet and we look at what's going on right here, you'll see that you've got expendables, $477. At this stage of the game, you've got to say to yourself, am I doing the markup or not? Are they requesting receipts or not? If they are requesting receipts, how do you then take the $477 receipt, which is what you're going to have, and charge them $558 for it? Are you going to simply at the bottom of it write 17% photographer markup? If you've told them beforehand and you've worked this out, that's fine, but this is the thing I'm trying to warn you guys about. If you haven't brought it up to them at all and you go to charge them for it and they come back to you and they say, that's fine, you need to send me receipts for everything, what are you going to do? So then you're in there using your little Photoshop skills to change all the numbers on all the receipts, and believe me, it happens to everybody and everybody does it. So can I tell you to lie, cheat, and steal? Apparently I can, because I've been doing it all 4 weeks that we've been together so far, right? And I used to be that I actually tried to hide this a little bit. Now I just flat out admit it and tell you that you need to use the talents and the gifts that you learned here at Columbia College. So at any rate, but I'm going to leave mine. I'm not going to mark mine up. I'm going to actually, figure I'm making enough on the rest of this. I don't want to piss them off. So I'm going to just put in $477. So to do that, you simply type a 1 in for the unit and put in $477 for the studio expendables. Miscellaneous. Again, it's just an easy place to put in a figure right here. If I'm shooting for 5 days, I'm going to put $150 a day for 5 days. So it's just a simple one. What does it cover? It covers the weird taxi cab that somebody needed. So again, $150 at 5 a day, whatever, that's what I'm going to put in here. Are we doing any messengers or shipping or that kind of stuff? We're not, but a lot of times you will run into that. If how are the clothes getting down to Miami? They're coming from New York. Well, is that my expense on that? It may not be my cost to get it down there, but it might be mine to get it back to them. You would have to figure that whole thing out. If that's the case, then you also have to budget time for the stylist assistant to be packing that shit up and hauling it off to FedEx. Does that involve your other assistant, the local guy down there, and the stylist assistant who's also down there? Is that an extra day for them? Is that Monday following our shoot that they actually can pack up and get rid of all the gear? That happens. So I'm going to leave this off and say, no, we don't have any of that stuff here. So backgrounds and backdrops. We haven't talked about this. I didn't put this in my notes. But so what is our background and backdrop? Well, I'm just going to say simple white seamless, right? That's what they're going to shoot in Miami. But it could be more. And if it is more, you need to know that. So what does a simple white seamless cost? We talked about this last week, didn't we?
No,
Was
that
it
was
$150 that we charged?
the.
We're charging for that 100-foot roll, 12-foot wide white seamless. That's what we're charging for, right? So again, I want to say it was $150, but we have to pay sales tax on that. What's the sales tax in Miami? Does anybody know? So this is the first trip to the internet. And you go into your web browser and you do new and you go Miami, M-I-A-M-I, beach. Sales tax rate. 7%. So that's what we are going to do on this. So if we come back to our Excel spreadsheet, you put in one roll of seamless, and again, it would be an equal sign, or do this, just do the calculation on your phone, but if we get Excel to do it, it would be 1 equals 150 times 1.07. That 07 will give us 7%. And so it would be $160.50. Are you doing your 17% markup on the seamless? You've got to decide. I'm not going to do it here. I feel like I'm good enough. But again, if you're marking your stuff up at 17%, then you've got to add the 17% markup to the roll of seamless that we just put in. We do not have a set builder or a set designer. What about our location scout? Now, typically what happens with this is this. In a location scouting situation, they will charge you roughly $650 a day to look for a specific thing. So you call them up and you say, I need a house that's on a canal that has a big white yacht parked out there that I can shoot in the house, on the yard, and in the yacht. That's what I need. You need to go find that for me. And they will charge you $650 a day to go look for that. They may find it in 1 day. It may take them 7 days. Again, I would ask them to do an estimate for me first to tell me how long it's going to take them to find that. Then what typically will happen is if you book the location person, if you use them to book the location, you get the scouting for free. Does that make sense? Because they will then make that money in the location fee. Are we good on this? So I already know what I want. A lot of location scouts have already got libraries of images, and they'll just send you, I need this house, and they'll say, I got 5 of them, I'll send them to you. If you'd never use them, they charge you to look at their library, and they'll charge you, again, some fee to actually do that, and that's what this location file search part would be right here. But typically what they'll do, and in most cases, you'll actually use them to actually book a location. So in our case, you don't need to worry about the scouting fee. You do need to worry about the location fee. We've got 2 days in there. $2,500 will get you an okay house in Miami. Nothing great, but something okay. Do you need a permit to shoot inside a house in Miami Beach? Yes, you do. We're going to look at permits in just a second. So as we're going on down here, we said that there is no wardrobe purchase or rental. There are no props either in this. We're not using either one of those. What's the difference in purchase and rental? How do they charge rental? What would that actually be?
Like a costume place?
A lot of costume places are actually stores. A lot of stores, you go to Macy's and tell them what you're actually doing, and they will charge you a 30% rental on whatever it is that you're buying. Some people do buy and return. If you do buy and return, you should know this, especially in advertising. Advertisers will do this all the time. They will buy and return. And the way you figure out the cost of that is that if anything is used, they have to buy it. Anything that is unused is returned. So you're doing a picture of a guy wearing a golf shirt for some ad, right? And the client says, I want to see every possible shade of green, every possible shade of blue, and every possible shade of yellow in a golf shirt. And a stylist will go out, and I see this happen all the time. They will come back with 50, 60, 70 shirts, and they hang them all up. And they go in and they shoot, and they shoot one color of each. So they end up shooting 3 of them. The stylist will then return 7 of them, and they will keep those 3, and the client has to pay for those 3. Anything that is used, a client typically has to pay for.
Who keeps goals purchased?
Oh, and then the client all keeps them, which is so bizarre. So no, this is so true. J. Walter Thompson, Ogilvy Mather, all of these places have gigantic storage room basements that are full of shit that they have shot over the years, and they don't do anything with it. They just insist on keeping it. I've paid for it. I own it. I want it. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to throw it in the basement with all the other shit. They're unreal. They are unreal what they have in those places. You know the kayak that was painted to look like a snake? It's in the basement. Never. And they don't keep track of it. They'll never go there. They'll shoot well, we need another kayak with a snake on it. Yeah, don't we have that in the basement? Yeah, but I'm not going to go down there. Are you? No. Let's just do another one.
You should like donate or something.
Do you think? Yeah. All right. So at any rate, we're getting there, guys. So special equipment rental. We go back to our other sheet, the equipment rental. The special equipment rental here was $5,884 because I'm not doing the markup. So I put in a 1, $5,884. Digital rental equipment. I go back to our equipment rental here. Digital rental equipment was $41.89. So I put in a 1, hit the tab key, $41.89, and continue over. We're not doing any special lens rentals. I could have actually pulled out. Remember, we rented that 300 millimeter. I could have pulled that guy out, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to add for any grip rental or studio rental. We do have 2 of those. So we have 2 days. A typical studio in Miami Beach is going to be $1,200 a day. Motorhome. We are going to use a motorhome on the day of the beach, and we're also going to use it on the day of the location and the house. So that is 3 days at $750 a day. Do we have parking, tolls, gases, or gas and mileage? Of course we do. What am I going to put in here for it? Well, I'm not really going to try to work out what that's going to be. I'm simply going to throw in a figure here of $500, $100 a day, or let's just do 5 days. Let's go ahead and keep it like we've been doing. $100 a day for each of that. I'm going to say that's part is actually going to work. Car van rental. How are you going to haul all this gear around? What kind of vehicle are you going to rent to do this? And to drive yourself around? A van, right? A cargo van, probably. That's typically what we will use. Is we will get a cargo van, which specifically it's got a front seat, and then everything else is completely enclosed. So you can actually put stuff in the back. You can't see in the back. It's that kind of stuff. What's a cargo van cost? So you go back to the internet right now, and you go to Orbitz. Yeah, that's okay. Your producer will be, and that's who will be reserving it. So we're actually going to reserve a car, and we're going to do it in Miami. And I'm going to simply put in, we will do next week, starting at Monday and going through, we started on the 7th. We are going to return it on Sunday at the same time. Yep, the same as pickup. And we're going to actually search. And we didn't, but we're going to actually look down here for, we're not doing any of these, full-size premium luxury convertible minivan. We're not doing SUV, pickup, sports car, other. We're not going to, actually we'll see what other is. And that's not it. So I'm going to go back to Google, and I'm going to do cargo van. Miami van rental exclusive discounts. We'll see what Hertz has. You guys could be doing this with me, you know. If somebody can find this faster than me, we can fucking move on here, which would be great. Miami Beach. We will go ahead and do it. We'll pick it up at the airport. And again, we'll put in the 7th. And we'll go to the 13th. Yes, cars that I might want. I want the... Say what? Oh, actually, that's a good one. Let's do U-Haul. So did you come up? All right, so what's the price? Give me cargo van.
$119.70 plus 99 cents a month.
Okay, so $119.70 plus how much a mile?
99 cents a mile. Okay,
so we're going to figure typically, I don't know, let's say 50 miles a day. So that's an extra $50 a day. So it's 119 plus 50. I was going to say, what are all the taxes? No, There's way more taxes on rental equipment like that. They'll charge some 12% leisure tax and some 5% pickup tax and take back tax, whatever. You've actually got to go through and do the whole booking part. There's no other way about this. You've got to actually treat it like you're going to book it because the taxes will kill you. Hotels are going to do the same thing.
And that was for 6 days.
Okay, so that was from a 6-day rate. So I'm looking at roughly, I'm going to throw in $250 a day because I'm not going to actually do the math. I mean, to research the tax part, but you guys have got to do that. Does that make sense? Because we're going to book airline tickets right now. They don't quote you, again, the tax rates on airline tickets either. So we're going to say $250 a day for this. So for the van. It was 119 total, but then I've got $50 in mileage on top of that. So now I'm at 170. And then I've got, I know the 7% tax on top of that, but probably another, like I say, 15% on top of that for, if you ever rent cars, the taxes are as much, if not more, than the rental.
Is it easier just to do the day rate then?
It possibly could be easier to do the day rate of that part, but again, they're going to have all these other charges. The point I'm trying to make out to you is you've actually got to essentially act like you're booking the van to find out ultimately what it's going to cost. And we're doing it for next week. This would also depend on the day on when you're going, because Lord knows you're going to end up there over Easter weekend. And when all the rates double, because there are no cars left in Miami. No, that shit happens, right? So at any rate, you got to figure it out. So I'm just going to, for the sake of brevity, because we've got to wrap this up in the next 20 minutes, and we've still got a lot to do. Brevity, I'm going to put in 250. It shouldn't be that far off. You'll probably make a little money on this. Airfare, how many people are flying? 6. So we actually need to come up with a price. So again, back to the internet, back to Orbitz. Oh, that's a good point. Wait, we're picking the car up on Monday and we're returning it on Sunday. Isn't that 7 days? Monday, we have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 days. So you're right. So back to our estimate, that's not 5 days, that's actually 6. Yep. For the airfare, oh, actually though, this is for the car van rental. That's only to drive my assistants around. Both assistants can fit in there and the gear. What about everybody else? I've got hair and makeup. I've got the photographer. I've got the stylist and the stylist assistant. I need at least one more car, right? An SUV, something like that. That sounds great. So that's what I'm going to do. Again, you would have to cost that all out. So I'm going to. But I've only got the motorhome on 3 days. I don't have it on the, what about the studio days? What about going out for dinner that night? You know, let's all pile in the motorhome and go grab Joe's Stone Crab, okay? Yahoo! Party in the parking lot. So I'm actually going to add a second line down here because, again, I could put it up here, but it's going to get too confusing. So I'm going to do a second car rental down here. So 2ND car rental. Again, it'll be the same 6 days. Again, you would have to go through, find it, get all the math. I'm going to put in $150 just as a placeholder. It'll be somewhat close to that. It may not be exactly, but it'll be somewhat close. So airfare, back into the internet, back to Orbitz. Or you can do Expedia. Let's do Expedia this time. And I'm going to do O'Hare. Somebody do this with me, please. Thank you.
What day do you want to leave? The 7th?
Yeah, pick a Monday. So, yep, let's leave on, let's go 2 weeks out because at least let's give them a break. So let's go out on the 14th and we'll come back. No, we'll come back on the 20th because we come back on Sunday, right? Okay, and it would be, so I'm only looking for flights. And it would be for, you can do it for all 6. Let's do it for 1 so that we can actually put in just a single price ticket for that. And let the computer, let the spreadsheet actually do it. Oh, fuck you. I did not want that. So search. Okay, you say it's pretty cheap. However, I'm only doing non-stops. I'm not going to do anything else. I know. We'll wait till this gets through. So I'm only going to do non-stops. I'm not leaving at 5 o'clock in the morning. Not a prayer in hell. I'm not leaving at 7:30 in the morning. I'm not leaving at 4 in the afternoon, or 6 in the morning, or 3. 8:45 is the first one I might possibly consider. Yeah, 8, because I get in at like 1 o'clock. That'll still give me time to get to the studio, possibly do some setup, do some location search. So let's go ahead and select this one. And then on our trip back, I'm going to leave at 10 o'clock in the morning. Is that too early? It's Sunday. We're done. It's so early, right? You got to be there at 8 o'clock, right? So that sucks. Let's not do that. How about the noon right here? We'll do the noon right here, but who the fuck flies Frontier Airlines? No, we're not going to do that. So, okay, I'm feeling better. Delta, how about 11:15? Is that okay? Or, wait. Wait, there is one stop here. I thought I only asked for nonstop. You fuckers. Well, I know, I had selected it. I had that part before, but still. Okay, wait a second. So do we want to hang out at the pool all day and leave at 4:57? Yeah. But again, we'll have to get out, but we can check our bags with the valet, and all we need is a bathing suit and a change of clothes for the plane, right? So are we all in the pool or what?
Yeah.
All right, here. So it's going to charge us another $3 here. We're going to we'll do the hotel later. We'll do the hotel later. Okay, so we've got 308. Are we sure that includes the sales tax? It's Orbit, so it probably does include the sales tax. So let's just say 308.20. So we'll go back to our spreadsheet. There's 6 of us. I am going to round this up just a touch and say 350 because I'm nervous. We may not be able to get that same guy. And again, it's an estimate. So the per diem actually is for the crew only. It's not going to include, so what we've got to deal with basically is dinner, because we're dealing with the client, we've got breakfast and lunch for all our days of shooting. However, on Monday, the day we go down, and probably Sunday, both of those, we're gonna need Monday night dinner, and we're probably, because we're traveling, we'll probably need lunch and dinner, and then on Sunday, we'll need breakfast. So it's basically one more day, right? Shooting nights. We got to deal with that part. So this is where we're going with this whole part of it here. Again, this gets a little bit more complicated, but so what I'm going to do for the per diem for the crew is we're going to put in 6 people, and then we're going to kick across to this. And typically, this would be the rates that I would charge. I would charge the $15 for breakfast, the $25 for lunch. That's exactly the same figure that we used for the catering days. But then it's going to be $50 for dinner for every single night, right?
Don't we have 8 people on the team?
We're not hosting the people who are down. So the photographer is not. I mean, the assistant in Miami is not coming to dinner with us, and neither is the styling assistant. So this is just going to be for us. Does that make sense here? Okay, so this one is going to get a little more complicated in the math right here because it basically works like this. For those 6 people, we are going to, if you add the $15 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's actually, we've got one of those, right? Because our very first day, we've got the breakfast. I'm sorry, for our very first day, we've probably, the day we're going to fly down, the day we're flying down, we're going to have lunch and dinner. So basically, you get to the airport, you're going to have lunch, and you're going to have dinner that night in Miami, right? And then for our last day, Sunday morning, we're coming back. We'll pop for breakfast. We won't charge them for lunch because we're just going to be drinking at the bar, and they're not going to pay for liquor. Clients used to pay for liquor. They don't do that anymore. Most of them do it anymore. It's really sad. But at any rate, so does that make sense what we're going to do? Okay, so for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to put an equal sign in here, and I'm going to have 90. That's going to cover that one, the first day of lunch and dinner and the last day of breakfast only, right? So then so I've got equal here. Then I'm going to hit plus, then you need to do an open bracket in this because we need to figure out something completely different. So if you don't understand the math here, we can actually separate this out into two different issues right here. But the one deal that I've got here that I've got to figure out is it's $90 plus. And then we have got 5 nights, our shooting nights of dinners, right?
Yeah.
So inside these parentheses, you actually put in 5 times 50, and then close bracket. So now what I'm saying, what this formula I've just done here, and if this math is too complicated, you could again simply put in the 6 times 90 here, and then you could put in a second line down here. You've got to figure out the cost of for the crew of dinner for 5 nights. Does that make sense? What's going on here? So this math will figure it out. This math is, or you can actually figure it out yourself. Let's just figure it out ourselves. Let's not do the tricky math. We've got 5 nights of dinners at $50 a pop. So instead of putting in this parentheses formula right in here, simply put in 250. That'll take care of dinner, right? So I've got the $90 takes care of my dinner in Miami on Monday night, my lunch and dinner on Miami on Monday, and then my breakfast on Sunday morning. But then for the other 5 nights that I've got, for Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, those 5 nights, it's $50 a person. So 5 times 50 is $250. So for each person, it's going to end up being $340, right? So I end up hitting enter to that, and my total for my crew to feed them is $2,040. Does this make sense to everybody? Yeah. Okay. Finally, there is no per diem for the talent. Hotel. How many hotel nights do I have? We have 6 nights times how many people? 6 people. I know you guys would all love to sleep with me, but I don't sleep well at all. I am an insomniac, so you're not sharing my room. And I'm a really good person when I hire talent. I don't make anybody share rooms. So we've got 36. We've got 36 hotel nights, right? We have 6 people times 6 nights, right? So I put in 36. I just call them hotel nights. So this is going to be 36. And then what's the hotel cost a night?
$169
Yeah, where are you staying, girl? Because I'm not staying with you.
$169 a night per person.
Is this Miami Beach? Are you near the airport? Where are you?
Yeah. I'm thinking days in at the airport. You haven't figured out tax in this, right? And what hotel did you pick?
Lowe's Miami Beach Hotel.
Yeah.
It has a 4.3 out of 5 stars.
Okay, so wait. Did you went to? Okay, no, that's fine. Wait. So you went to TripAdvisor, right? Okay, Expedia, that's fine. Whatever. And it's located in South Beach.
Yes. No.
Yep.
It's,
What's the address?
I know where it is. It's a good area.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're talking about the same.
Collins Ave.
Perfect. It's right on the beach. Okay.
89% of guests recommend.
Okay, fine. So we're going with that. What's the tax rate on it?
29.64.
Okay, so is that
Daily
included?
resort fee. Is that what that means?
All that stuff. So I need to know what the final cost is.
Ooh, King Bed, City View.
But you could stay in the days in
Total for
70
6
and that.
nights is 1,156.
Okay, wait. But then you got to divide that times 6 because I need a per night cost. Or just total up all the taxes in the room rate.
No,
Includes-
that includes
includes.
taxes and fees.
Okay, so what was the total? Somebody grab their calculator really quick and just do this.
1156.
Yeah, what's that math?
Do what? 1156?
Divided by 6.
Yeah, 1156 divided by 6.
192, 193.
193. So let's just round it up to $200. So it's $200 a night. So back to our Excel spreadsheet and put that in there. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. So 200. Baggage. Who thinks about baggage? Exactly, and what does baggage cost?
Don't a lot of airlines include like 1 or 2 bags?
No, most of them charge for the first bag and then they charge more for the second bag. So what are they charging a bag? So $50 would be a great figure for this. So how many people, how many bags are coming with you?
Silas probably has 2
I was
bags.
gonna say, the people that are gonna have 2 is, in all likelihood, the stylist and hair and makeup will certainly have a second bag, if not a third bag for the makeup person, because she's also doing hair, or he's also doing hair. So we need to figure that whole part out. But let's just say everybody else gets 1 bag. So out of our crew, we have, how many bags are we gonna have? We've got photographer gets 1, the assistant gets 1, the digital tech gets 1, the producer gets 1, the hair and makeup person gets 3, and who do we have left? The stylist, she gets 2. So that's going to be 8 bags going down, but 8 bags coming back. So we've got 16 bags.
You're holding up mine.
Yeah, you're holding up nice.
We've got 18 bags at $50 a pop, and you can see that was a $900 charge. Guys, focus. That was a $900 charge that if you didn't think about the baggage, all of a sudden that would be $900 out of your pocket that you were eating, because this is going to be in your cost, right?
Wait, 9?
Yeah, 18 bags, 9 going down, 9 coming back at $50 a bag. That's how the insurance, that's, okay. Insurance liability, all of this. How much do we put in for this? So again, I'm going to put in just $50 for this that we can actually take out. I'm also going to do the same thing down here. Everybody goes, what's insurance and all that? And you just say, that's what it costs to get my certificate of insurance that we actually had to have in California. So, I mean, in Miami Beach. So are there any things now that we have not figured out that we need?
Sunscreen.
Good point. That'll probably fall under miscellaneous. And it would be a great answer. What's the miscellaneous charge for? Things like sunscreen. Yeah, right?
What about like the house rate that we're renting? Did we ever do that? Yeah, we did that.
Yep, we already got that. So then again, hold down command, hit the command option X, and it comes out, and you see that our grand total is basically $160,000. And I got to be honest with you guys, this is exactly what I typically figure. When somebody asks me, command option X, and it didn't work,
I did.
just open it, go back up to your file, open recent, just make sure the Mac is open. It's not that guy. You didn't open the other guy. I'm just saying it didn't seem open. Okay, guys, we're not done. We are not done. We are not done. Okay, so we got to get through this part quick because I don't think. Okay, I want to finish this up, and you guys want me to finish this up with you, don't you?
Yeah.
Because we've gone so far, right?
Yeah.
Then you need to promise, because I was holding out time for tonight. Evaluations for this course open today.
Oh.
They close in a week. Do this on your own, but please do this. I need to know what is working here and what's not working. You need to be honest with me and tell me, okay? Okay. So in that case, we will finish doing this the right way. So did everybody end up with this total like this, somewhat copied out like this, right?
Well, it's because our creative fee is different.
Oh, yeah.
Say what?
Our creative fee is different.
Oh, you're right. Your creative fee would be different. So here, I'm going to change my creative fee really quick to just see if it's the same as your all's. So now are they the same?
What is it?
$155,990.50. Okay, so I'll stick with your figures. Okay, so you'll also notice that this has also been brought down, sorted, it's also been copied. Before we go on, let me ask you this. So you put this bid together and the client comes back to you and says, okay, I want to also know what it would be, what it would cost me to actually, because we said the conditions on this is one-time print. Wasn't that what the thing was, the stipulation? They came back and they said, we want to be able to use these images on the internet. We want to use them for both. We want to print and internet. That is now a second usage, right? And we're only going to do it for a year. So again, it's not, if it was going to be internet for 2 years, what would that mean, usage-wise? It would be 3 usages, right? It would be an additional one for media, but then you get, again, if it was only the additional media, the website for only a second year, then it would again be 3 usages. If it was print and web for 2 years, it would be 4 usages, right? So they get 1 usage in the creative fee. So if that's all we're going to do, nothing changes. There is no line in here for usage. But if they came back to you and said, we also want to use it for print media, for online, in this case, you would go back to one of these lines right here, and you would put in online usage or additional usage. Maybe that's a better way of phrasing it. Let's just do additional usage. And again, no, what it's actually going to be is exactly what your creative fee is. So you put in 1, and it's $15,000. And then simply hit Command Option again to do your second one. And now we've actually got the $170,000. But the beautiful thing about this is, again, you do not have a photographic fee of 30 grand. You've still got your original $15,000 for your photo fee, but you've got this additional usage at $15,000 as well, which looks more palatable. This one, right? Would you rather have it look this way, or would you rather have, forget the additional usage, just that photo fee, 30 grand? Guys, this is strictly optics here. That's all we're talking about. You're still going to make your 30 grand, but which of these do you think a client's going to swallow easier? Where this thing is separated out. There is a conversation about this if you look at what we were talking about earlier, where there are photographers that actually will simply give them this number. The estimate for the job is $170,000. They won't break it down at all. That would be a huge mistake. All right, so is everybody good on this so far? Okay, now you guys do, if you have, nobody's probably going to have their own personal stationery on this computer. So instead of that, what I want you to do is, if you go back to our website, you have to do a save as. If you won't probably just hit save. Did you? Is the second is the macro sheet open now? You need both of them open. So click on window. Okay. Yeah, you're missing one. So go back to our website. And this guy right here, the CalcMac one, you have to open on both, and it's not open. Yeah. So if you downloaded it, great, and then go ahead and enable the macro. And that's what's going to go back to your estimate worksheet. The one that you get the job. That's right. You're here. So that's right. Yep, you're good. Okay, so since you guys probably do not have your own stationery here, I want you to go back to our website. And on our website from also, I think it is last week, let me make sure. Oh, here it is. Okay. It's actually from last week. It's right here. It is this ASMP assignment estimate form. Click on that guy to, it'll download. Again, it was from last week, week number 3. It's this ASMP estimate, assignment estimate form. And open that guy up. And you can see that what this is designed to do is it's giving you information here about how to fill this whole thing out. So but it describes it. So you clearly need to lose some of this language you do not want to turn in to a client in the sample form below. The text in italics means, however, this is designed to help work you through. So it says, put your name and contact information at the top of the page. A logo is a good idea. This will help you build a piece of stationery. If you've already got your own stationery, that's great. Go ahead and use that. If not, this will help give you some idea of how it should be constructed, Bailey.
Do you have templates that you usually use to make your estimates, like that are stylized to your company?
I do, and I'll show you what it looks like right now. So, but I was giving you something that you guys could actually do this on. In my case, I'm going to say do not fill all of this out right now because it's going to take longer than we have. So simply create a new document in Word. Just bring up a brand new document in Word. And now yours may not look like mine, but I'll show you what mine actually does look like. So I am, if you've got one and you want to use it, please go ahead and use it. Oh, this will actually be interesting. So we need to get back to, before I actually do this, before we do this, back in Word, I need to make sure that something did not screw up here. So in your, I'm going back to our estimate in Excel really quick. So please go back to your estimate in Excel really quick. So this is what, so we do want to save this guy. If you come up to the file menu and you're saying you can't save yours, Matthew?
It was trying to do it online.
Oh, okay. All right, so come up to your file menu, come down and do a save as, and I need everybody to do this with me because this is kind of an important one. I am actually going to put this on my desktop. However, I am going to not hide the extension of this, and I am going to create a new folder on my desktop. So what do you name this new folder? What you name this new folder is your job number. So I'm going to tell you how I create my job numbers. You guys come up with your own method. I don't care what it is, but you need to get in the habit of actually doing your own job number. So for me, what I do is I do it very much like I do the naming of my shootings, right? So it starts with the date. Actually, I'm going to start this with the client. We're not going to start this with the date. So in my case, I only use a 3-digit code, and the 3-digit code, it's Lord and Taylor, so it's going to be LOR. It's the first 3 letters of whoever it is. If it was Bonton, it would be BOM. If it's Neiman's, it would be NEI. If it was Columbia College, it would be COL. So anyway, I start that. And then you want to put in the projected date of the job. When do you think you're really going to do this guy? Right? So for me, the projected date of this job, I'm going to do 016. And then let's say we are going to do this starting on the 14th. It would be 11/14. So now I know when it is and who it's for, and that's the projected part of this guy. And I'm going to go ahead, and that is just, I'm creating this. This is the folder that I'm actually creating to hold everything. Inside of that, my calculator gets named the exact same thing. So it is LOR 20161114. And you will see that I have got a dot XLS on this. I'm going to also add estimate to this, EST. So what this is telling me is that this is my estimate, but it's the Excel spreadsheet. I can tell it's that because of that XLS. So it's the estimate for this job. That actually goes into my folder, and I'm going to do save. Then I'm also going to find that equipment rental that I had. It's also an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to do a save as on this guy. And the save as on this guy is going to be named LOR 20161114 EQP, stands for equipment. Yeah, that sounds good. You just need to remember what the hell you're naming shit as. And it goes into the very same folder that you just did that in. So in my case, I've created this folder. It is now added into this very same guy, and you do a save on that one. So that guy is actually taken care of. If you had done your timesheets for each and every day, you would come and grab your timesheet here. Again, I would have done a completely separate one for each and every day. I would have I'd have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Even if I'm just copying them over and over again, I would save each and every one for that so that I could go back in and change one if I had to. So again, I'm going to come up and I'm going to do a save as, and this gets named OR 20161114 MOD. Or whatever you want to use for a timesheet. Again, it goes back to that very same folder and it gets saved into that. And that's all that I think I've really got going in here. So that's just those three guys. They're all named the exact same thing. I'm going to go back to the big overall one that's got all the cost into it. It's no longer being copied to my clipboard. You can tell when Excel copies things, there's little marching ants around it. So I am going to go ahead and just hit Command-C or go up to the Edit menu down to copy it again. Then I'm going to open up my stationery. This is going to work probably different for you guys, but we'll see. How do we do what? Okay. So I'm opening up my stationery. And it looks like this. And the very first thing that I would put in is today's date. So this is November. Oh, wait, this is October. 31/2016. The very next thing that you put in is who is this going to? So this would be to Lord and Taylor. And it would have all their information. So it would have the address, the contact person, all of that. I'm not going to spend time typing all of that out. The next thing that would actually go into is what this is actually for. Estimate for, and then you list everything. What the job is, the complete description for the job. You can look at that template that is the ASMP one. It will tell you what should actually be listed in this very top header. So it would be for a 5-day shoot, Miami Beach, Florida, 2 models and local models in Florida, 2 days in studio, 1 day at the beach, 5 days. Everything gets spelled out. It's a huge paragraph that gets spelled out. Underneath that, you would actually type in usage. And in our case, what this estimate is actually for is, it is for 1 year print, or actually I think we can do both because we weren't doing the 2 years of the second one. So the usage would actually be print and internet for 1 year, for 1 year US only, or North American only. And again, you would look at the whole estimate language. They'll tell you what also should be included in that. Then finally, you get to the part where you actually break this thing down. And actually, to break this thing down, everybody needs to look at this because otherwise you're going to fuck this up and it's going to be a nightmare. If you just do a paste right now, it's going to throw in the spreadsheet for you. Actually, it didn't. It usually does. At any rate. But if you do a paste, you come up and do paste special and ask it simply to put in unformatted text, it should come in and look more like it is actually supposed to look. Now, if you don't have tab stops in yours set up like mine, it's not going to look exactly like mine. It's not going to be as tweaked out. You'll see some of mine has actually got figures that are off, and it's only because there's too much space. The word special rental equipment crossed one of the tabs. So to bring this back in, you simply click on this line right here and just hit the delete key to get rid of one of the tabs. And then everybody else should line up.
What are you supposed to hit? I'm sorry. Formatted?
You're supposed to come up down to paste special and put in unformatted text. Again, you don't have tab stops like I do. If you want it to look exactly like mine, you've got to actually have tab stops put in here. Try this, Undo the paste. If you click on the, do you guys have the formatting bar at the very top? You don't have the, I'm not going to show you how to do this in tonight. We've got 5 minutes and we've still got more important things to do. So just watch my screen, okay? Are we good on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this gets you through the whole part. It lists all the parts that we've got going on down here. It's got, and mine calculates invoice, so you need to change this to estimate. And then finally, now this is not required, but I do this on my own. For my estimates, I do this. I don't want art directors calling me up the whole time saying, what's this for, what's this for, what's this for, what's this for, what's that for, what's this for, how do you calculate this, this is that. So I don't do that. Instead, what I do is this. I type in notes. I go back to my Excel spreadsheet, and instead of copying this whole thing, I simply copy this group of numbers, categories right here. So I select it, Command-C to copy it, and I come back into Word, and I paste that. Again, it pasted weird, so you don't want to do that. Come back up to Paste Special, and pick Unformatted Text, and say OK. And it will give you everything in the exact order that it is on your sheet up here. And you come in, I'm actually going to capitalize notes. And you put in how these were calculated. So photographic fee, again, for this, I would not put in 5 days at $3,000 of whatever. I would simply put in as estimated. A talent, again, you would go back to your Excel spreadsheet and you would say talent is 108.5 model hours at $525 plus 20% agency fee, and that's exactly what you would type in here. 108.5 hours at $525 per hour plus 20% agency fee. And it just keeps on going down. Additional usage would be, again, internet for 1 year. And production coordinator. What did we do her at? Again, go back and look at your list and you'll actually figure it out. So production coordinator was 11 days at $750 a day, and that's what you would put in. Does this make sense? Yeah. Okay, we're not done. So at the end of this, you need to put in your terms and conditions. So going back to our form right here, there's two sets. There is mine, this is my personal one right here called Estimating Language. If you click on that to download it and take a look at it, it's this guy right here. If you open this thing up, you will see this is an estimate only, final charges may vary. It talks about rain cancellation days, it talks about everything else. It's actually got a place for you to sign and return this. You can simply copy this, go to your estimate, and at the bottom of this, paste that in. This gives them a place to sign and return this to you. That's one set of possible terms and conditions. There's another one that is far more exhaustive to this, and you need to decide whether you want to use it or not. It's also the AS&P ones, and it is, yep, thank you. When you look at this one, you'll see it's like pages long. Decide which one you want to use, blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of all of this, back into Word, once you get this all tricked out, you save this. And this comes up to, again, save as. And again, you go back to the folder that we've been in this whole time. And this gets named LOR 20161114 EST for estimate. And you will see that because it's a Word document, it'll either be saved as a DOC file or a DOXC file or DOCX file. That's what it is. one or the other. This is an older version of Word, and it's just a compatibility issue. I could change this to the typical one that's being used right now, and go ahead and hit save. And then what you'll notice is on your desktop, you will actually have this folder that has all of your estimating in it, everything that you worked out. And the reason this becomes important to you is because inevitably you're going to have a client that comes back and says, we want to knock a day off, or we want to add a day. Well, instead of having to go through this nightmare all over again, you simply open up this one and you make the changes. So let's say that that actually happened. Let's say that they wanted to add a day. You would simply, again, go back into your, you would launch your the estimate Excel worksheet right here. This is the one that we'd actually open up. It probably is already open. It's sitting right here. And you would go through and you would add another day into all of this, everything that you had to add the day for, the hotels, the whole 9 yards. Then when you went to save this, you would come up to save as, and you would actually add a version 2 in this. You would actually add V2. You do not want to overwrite any of your files, because the minute you do that, they're going to come back to you and say, you know, that day we wanted to add, we actually want to take it away again. Are there questions about this?
So if they want to do anything like that, they have to re-sign everything.
Oh yeah, it starts all over again. Are we good on this? All right, you're all going to go out there and make millions of dollars. I know you are.
I hope so.
Right, me too. And then you're going to come find me. Remember the promise we made way back when I'm old and gray and I'm in the home? You're going to bring me bourbon and salt. Thank you. That's all it takes. All right, guys, that's it. We will see you next week. Please do the course evaluation at some point. You can do it from home. You don't have to do it tonight. Oh, yeah. That is the assignment for today, or for this week, is this. So all you need to do is drop this on the Moodle site right now, and your homework is done. See, not only do I do it. Yeah, well, that's okay.
There's like 25 articles to read.
But anyway, that was your homework for next week, so you have no homework other than the 100 articles that you need to read.
I thought the homework said we have to include like the permits.
Oh, we haven't gotten to permits. We will get to permits next week because we literally got 2 minutes. Wait, do me a favor. Shoot me an email about that, because I definitely want to get to that part. We did not look at permits and what's involved with that, how you find them, how you decide on all that. Next week, we're doing sort of a lot of things, but we'll do all the catch-up stuff. If there's any other questions that you guys have about anything, please, please, please send them to me so I can pull together sort of a wrap all day next week, okay? And permits are definitely a part of it, because I've got them all printed out and something to look at, and we need to talk about that. Thank you.
Our last class is next week.
It is.
I was doing that.
I don't know, whatever.
I think it says all of them.
Whatever it says, so.
I've just been doing it myself.
I've been just submitting PDFs. But I need to submit